Hollywood loves the drama of life or math battles. Films like Gladiator make us believe that every fight ended with someone lying dead on the sand. But let's break that down. Did you know that most gladiator fights didn't end in death? In fact, the majority of these matches were highly organized events where survival, not slaughter, was often the goal. Here's why. Gladiators were expensive investments. These fighters were trained in specialized schools called ludi gladiatori, where they learned unique fighting styles. Owners spent a fortune on their training, weapons, and upkeep. Imagine training a world-class athlete today, only to throw them into a match where they're guaranteed to die. It wouldn't make sense economically, and it didn't make sense in ancient Rome either. Let me challenge your thinking. When you watch a movie about gladiators, do you see them as victims or as professionals? Because the reality is, most gladiators were professionals. Again, to modern-day sports stars. They trained rigorously, developed unique personas, and even gained fan followings. Some were slaves or prisoners of war, yes, but many volunteered for the role, drawn by the promise of fame and fortune. Take the example of Flamma, a Syrian-born gladiator who fought 34 matches and became a legend. Despite being offered freedom multiple times, he chose to remain a gladiator. Why? Because being a gladiator wasn't just a job, it was a path to glory. And here's a fact Hollywood often gets right. Gladiators were true entertainers. They had distinct fighting styles, complete with specialized armor and weapons. The Requiarius, for example, fought with a net and trident, relying on agility and strategy. The Murmio, on the other hand, wielded a sword and shield, favoring brute strength. These matchups weren't random. They were carefully planned to create excitement and balance. But let's pause for a moment. What does this say about human nature? Why do we, across centuries, find such fascination in organized combat? Is it the spectacle, the strategy, or something deeper about survival and competition?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Let's shift focus. Gladiators weren't just warriors, they were celebrities. Imagine a Roman teenager carving graffiti into a wall, declaring their admiration for a gladiator like Celadus the Thracian. Sound far-fetched? Archaeologists have found evidence of exactly this. Gladiators weren't just fighters, they were icons. Their matches were advertised on walls and scrolls, much like posters for a modern sporting event. They had fans, endorsements, and even merchandise. Rings, lamps, and mosaics bore their likenesses. In a world without TikTok or Instagram, gladiators were the ultimate influencers. But why did Rome elevate these fighters to such heights? Part of it lies in the spectacle itself. The Colosseum wasn't just an arena. It was a stage where Rome displayed its power and unity. By bringing people together to watch gladiators, emperors reinforced their authority. Bread and circuses, as the saying goes, kept the masses entertained and compliant. Hollywood often gets this dynamic partially right. Films show emperors in their balconies deciding a gladiator's fate with a dramatic thumbs up or down. But here's the twist. The thumbs down gesture didn't mean what you think. Historians believe it likely indicated mercy, while a thumbs up meant the death blow. The drama was real, but the details often get lost in translation. Let's dig deeper. Gladiators also carried a symbolic weight. They represented both the fragility and resilience of life. Their battles reflected the struggle of existence in a world where life was often brutal and short. Yet they also symbolized hope. A successful gladiator, even a slave, could rise to fame, wealth, and even freedom. Pause and think about this. Why do we elevate athletes and entertainers in our own society? What does it say about our values and our need for heroes? Let's step into the Colosseum, the beating heart of Rome's gladiatorial games. With a capacity of up to 500 spectators, this amphitheater was a masterpiece of engineering. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how did the Romans pull off such massive events with precision and flair? The Colosseum wasn't just a structure, it was a machine. Beneath the arena floor lay a complex network of tunnels and elevators. These were used to transport animals, props, and even gladiators into the arena. Imagine the drama of a lion suddenly appearing from beneath the sand, or a chariot emerging for a mock battle. Hollywood often exaggerates the scale of these events, but the reality was equally impressive. Take nomachii, or mock naval battles. Ancient texts describe how arenas were flooded for ship battles. While some historians debate whether the Colosseum could be flooded, the Romans did stage these spectacles in other venues. The logistics alone, flooding an arena, transporting ships, demonstrate the ingenuity of Roman engineering. But the games weren't just about spectacle, they were political. Emperors used them to win favor with the public. By sponsoring free games, they showcased their generosity and power. It was a carefully orchestrated performance, blending entertainment, propaganda, and social control. And let's not forget the cost. The logistics of feeding animals, training fighters, and building sets were staggering. Yet the Romans spared no expense. Why? Because these games weren't just about entertainment, they were a display of Rome's dominance and its ability to conquer nature and man. Now, here's a question for you. What would it take to stage a modern equivalent of the gladiatorial games? Could any society today balance spectacle, morality, and political messaging on such a grand scale? So, what does Hollywood get right and wrong about Roman gladiators? The drama, the strategy, and the spectacle are true to life. But the stories are deeper than we often realize. Gladiators weren't just fighters. They were symbols of resilience, icons of their time, and part of a carefully crafted cultural narrative. The next time you watch a gladiator movie, look beyond the swords and sand. Think about the people behind the masks, the society that celebrated them, and the incredible complexity of the games they fought in. And ask yourself, why do we still find gladiators so captivating? If you found this as fascinating as I did, share it with someone who loves history or Hollywood. Let's keep uncovering the truth behind the myths, because sometimes reality is even more incredible than fiction. Now that we've unraveled the layers of Hollywood's portrayal of gladiators and compared it with historical reality, let's take a moment to step back and ask, why does this matter? Why do we care about gladiators, the Colosseum, and the way they've been depicted in movies and TV shows? It's more than just entertainment. Gladiators represent something timeless in human nature, a fascination with survival, spectacle, and the boundaries of human potential. By understanding what Hollywood gets wrong and right, we gain insight not only into ancient Rome, but also into ourselves. Let's dive even deeper into the meaning behind these battles. the lessons we can draw from their history, and why they continue to inspire and captivate us thousands of years later. The world of the Roman gladiator wasn't just about blood and sand. It was a mirror reflecting the values and contradictions of Roman society. Gladiators embodied both extremes of human experience. On one hand, they represented ultimate subjugation. Many were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals. On the other hand, they symbolized power, skill, and the ability to rise above one's circumstances to achieve glory. In many ways, this duality reflects human life itself. Think about it. How often do we face struggles that seem insurmountable, only to find strength within ourselves to persevere? Gladiators were living metaphors for this journey. They fought for survival, yes, but they also fought for something greater: recognition, freedom, and sometimes redemption. This is where Hollywood taps into something universal. When you watch a movie like Gladiator, you're not just rooting for Russell Crowe's Maximus because he's a great fighter. You're rooting for him because he represents the human spirit's refusal to be broken. But here's the catch. Real gladiators didn't have sweeping revenge arcs or dramatic last stands most of the time. Their stories were more nuanced. They were people trying to navigate a brutal system, balancing survival with ambition, and sometimes finding ways to carve out small victories in an unforgiving world. Ask yourself, what would you fight for if you were in their place? What would make the struggle worth it? While gladiator battles are a thing of the past, their legacy lives on in unexpected ways. Look at professional sports, for example. The arenas may be different and the stakes may not involve life and death, but the parallels are striking. Athletes today are celebrated for their physical prowess, their ability to overcome challenges, and their capacity to entertain and inspire millions. Even outside of sports, the gladiator ethos resonates in other areas of life. Think about entrepreneurs who risk everything to succeed, artists who bare their souls for their craft, or anyone who pushes themselves to their limits for a cause they believe in. Like the gladiators of Rome, these modern fighters understand the power of resilience, discipline, and focus. But there's a darker side to this legacy too. Just as Rome's gladiators were sometimes exploited for the entertainment of the masses, today's society often commodifies individuals in similar ways. Social media influencers, reality TV stars, and even ordinary people can find themselves thrust into the spotlight, celebrated one moment and torn apart the next. So here's a question to ponder. Have we really evolved past the spectacle of the gladiatorial games, or have we simply found new ways to stage them? What Hollywood gets right: the spectacle. To Hollywood's credit, they nail the grandeur of the games. The Colosseum is often depicted as a place of awe and terror, a theater where life and death played out for an audience hungry for thrills. This part is undeniably accurate. The Romans were masters of spectacle. They understood the power of staging, how to create tension, drama, and catharsis. The entry of the fighters, the matchups, the commentary from the announcers, yes, there were announcers, all of it was designed to keep the crowd engaged. Modern filmmakers have tapped into this same understanding of spectacle. That's why movies like Gladiator are so visually stunning. They capture the scale and intensity of these events in a way that reminds us why the Colosseum was such a central part of Roman life. But Hollywood also misses some crucial elements. Real gladiators didn't fight in chaotic free-for-alls like we often see on screen. Their battles were highly regulated, with referees ensuring fairness and rules governing the flow of combat. The violence was real, but it was controlled. Imagine if modern MMA fights or boxing matches were depicted in movies as lawless brawls. It might be entertaining, but it wouldn't reflect reality. The same is true for gladiator battles. Where Hollywood often falls short is in capturing the humanity of gladiators. Films tend to reduce them to either bloodthirsty killers or noble warriors with singular motivations. The truth is far more complex. Gladiators were people with fears, hopes, and dreams. Some fought reluctantly, forced into the arena by circumstances beyond their control. Others embraced the role, drawn to the fame and the chance to rise above their station. Many formed close bonds with their fellow fighters, creating a sense of camaraderie that helped them endure the harshness of their lives. This humanity is what makes the history of gladiators so compelling. It's not just about the fights. It's about the stories behind the fighters. What drove them? What did they dream of? How did they make sense of a world that demanded so much from them? Ask yourself, how often do we reduce people to stereotypes or roles without considering their full humanity? And what can we learn by looking deeper? So why are we still talking about gladiators thousands of years after the last fight in the Colosseum? Part of it is the sheer drama of their lives. But more importantly, gladiators tap into something timeless. They remind us of the strength it takes to endure hardship, the courage it takes to face impossible odds, and the resilience of the human spirit. They were flawed, complex, and deeply human, and that's what makes their stories resonate. Hollywood may not always get it right, but the fact that these stories are still being told proves their enduring power. They challenge us to ask big questions about ourselves, our values, and the kind of legacy we want to leave behind. So the next time you watch a gladiator movie, remember, it's not just about swords and sand. It's about the people, the history, and the lessons that still matter today. And ask yourself, what's the fight that defines your life? What would you risk everything for?